Hello my 200 subscribers and welcome back to my channel. So if you're wondering what this is, it's basically a jiu-jitsu small scar. That's it. So let's get it out of the way and go back to the topic. Still look good. Still look good. Are you getting that feeling recently? Whenever you look at your iPhone or you look or play with your PlayStation, is there like a weird itch that you feel in the back of your head? So recently, if you're like me, I've been getting an itch every time I look at my iPhone or I play on my PlayStation, something in the back of my head. And I am also sure that this same feeling is there with procurement, supply chain people, business, retail in general. The same feeling is with all executives in companies and businesses that depend on one country in mind for all their production and manufacturing. This feeling and fear, it's not caused by the fear of AI or machines or automation taking over manufacturing. That's a whole different story we can talk about in a different video. The fear is coming from something more real, more immediate, which is the US and China trade war. So to paint a better picture, imagine you are Ahmed and you're hustling and bustling in the streets of Cairo in Egypt. Or perhaps you're Catalina, sipping on your mate in Buenos Aires, Argentina. You open your eyes one morning and boom, the US-China war is here. Something that seemed so far away and distant, something you read about in the news. And without warning, it sneaked into your backyard, in your home country, in your city, in your neighborhood. And out of nowhere, you realize it's affecting your daily expenses, your career opportunities, and even your ability to get the iPhone or PlayStation that you love. That's right, my friends. Today we're gonna dive headfirst into the murky waters of the US and China trade war, exploring how something like this that seems so far away can slap every one of us right in the face, as if any one of us needed any more drama in our life. So let us time travel through the rocky history of the US-China trade relation, peeling back the political layers that surround this trade war and peeking into the crystal ball to see what potential future might be heading our way. And because no good story is complete without a twist, we'll be putting on magnifying glasses and looking into India as well. So as businesses scramble for alternatives to China, we'll weigh up the pros and cons of such a shift to India. Stick to the end if you're a corporate gladiator or a supply chain ninja. I will be throwing a lifeline out there with potential solutions that you can look into today. I know you're all busy, so feel free to hop around using the timestamp. But honestly, if you are keen on getting the full picture, you would want to stick around. So get your popcorn ready. Let's watch this episode together and see if our lives and everything around us will flip upside down because of the US and China trade war. And while you're here, hit that subscribe button because why the hell not? The US and China have a long trade history. Since the day Nixon decided to pack his bags and land on Chinese soil in 1972. That was the start of a beautiful friendship, or so it seemed, breaking the icy silence of decades between the two countries. But over the years, our friend China, under the guiding hand of Deng Xiaoping, decided to get a makeover, opening up its economy to the whole world. It was time to get on the global stage and get stuff going. By the time we hit the 80s, the trade between the US and China was at peaking levels, with China shipping out textile, toys, and electronics to Uncle Sam. However, the scales were tipped in the favor of China. The US was importing more than it was exporting. That's a bit like eating more cupcakes than you can burn off in the gym, or popcorn for that matter. In 2000, the US rolled out the red carpet for China, granting it Permanent Normal Trade Relations or PNTR status. This was the golden ticket for China to join the Cool Kids Club, also known as the World Trade Organization in 2001. With this, suddenly, the trade floodgates were opened. And by 2006, China pushed Mexico away to become the US second largest trade partner. And by 2010, Japan was out of the picture too, making China the US #1 trade partner. Remember that time when everything you touched was made in China? And we all had the joy of buying those super cheap knockoffs. Yeah, that was then. And I know you did it too. The US trade deficit with China was a whopping $202 billion in 2005, ballooning to over $315 billion by 2012. This is a lot of zeros, people. These trade hikes and the staggering deficit cranked up the heat between the two countries, on top of intellectual property theft, currency manipulation, and unfair trade practices. All of these were the sparks that ignited the trade war in 2018. In 2018, the US threw the first punch, imposing tariffs of $250 billion worth of Chinese trade imported goods. And China wasn't about to take this lying down, retaliating with tariffs of 110 billion worth of US goods. And so, the trade war thriller just began, shaking the global supply chains and causing economic trouble around the world. But tariffs were just the tip of the iceberg. Also, this trade war spilled over to the tech arena too, with Chinese tech giants Huawei and TikTok getting caught in the crossfire. So the US accused Huawei of being a national security risk, suggesting that its telecom equipment could be used by the Chinese government in espionage. This led Huawei to getting the cold shoulder in the US market and from American suppliers. And then there's TikTok, the social media darling owned by China's ByteDance. With concerns about data privacy and potential censorship, there were and still are calls to ban and divest the app's US operations. These incidents underline the broader implication of the US-China trade war, stretching beyond the tariffs to shake up the global tech scene and even digital freedom. Now, let's talk a little bit of politics. The US has been flip-flopping on China, with each administration taking a different stance on the trade war. Meanwhile, China has got its own strategic playbook, often butting heads with the US interests. And as the trade war rages on, the world got its popcorn out, waiting to see what the next act will be. Next, we'll dive into the potential outcomes based on historical patterns, news clippings, and expert views. So now that we know the whole story, let's dive into some potential what-ifs on the China and US trade war. Just remember, folks, these are educated guesses, not set in stone, but as the old saying goes, better safe than sorry. Scenario 1, the escalation. I would rank this at 40% likelihood. In this unpleasant turn of events, the US and China decide to turn up the heat, leading to more tariffs, sanctions, and economic hiccups. Global GDP could take a tumble, decreasing by 0.5% to 1%. So for Ahmed in Egypt and Catalina in Argentina, this could mean steeper prices, less product choice, and a roller coaster in the job market. The tech sector might find itself in a boxing ring, as both countries fight for the upper hand in the emerging technologies. Scenario 2, the stalemate, or the never-ending standoff. I would rate this at 30% likelihood. In this scenario, the trade war hits the wall, with both sides sticking to their position. The stalemate could lead to a drop in investment and a slowdown in the global economic growth, potentially trimming the global GDP growth by 0.3% to 0.6%. Countries in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa might feel the squeeze as their economies struggle to adjust. Businesses could hit pause on their expansion plans, and consumer confidence might take a hit as folks brace for a rocky ride. Scenario 3, the resolution, or the happy ending. I would rate this at 30% likelihood. In this more rosy scenario, the US and China decide to bury the hatchet and reach a trade agreement. This would ease tensions and set the stage for a more stable global economic climate. Tariffs would be cut down and trade barriers would be removed, leading to a surge in growth and investment. Countries around the globe, including those in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa, would enjoy and grow in that stability, experiencing a boost in trade, job opportunities, and overall economic well-being. While we can't tell the exact outcome of the US-China trade war, it is key for businesses and individuals to know the potential gameplays and gear up for the challenges that might come our way. As the possibility of a fallout hangs in the air, businesses are hunting for alternatives to China as their go-to manufacturing hotspot. Enter India, a rapidly blossoming economy with a wealth of skilled labor just waiting to be tapped. But hold your horses. Putting all your eggs in India's basket isn't risk-free. We've got to learn from our China story to dodge the bullet of creating yet another economic mammoth. Now, a better solution might be to embrace a modular supply chain approach, where we source products from a buffet of countries and piece them together closer to the consumer market. Sure, this strategy is a brain teaser and tough to develop, but this model could offer flexibility and slash any dependency on any single country out there. But the million-dollar question is, will markets and cutthroat competition let businesses take a more future-proof yet head-scratching complex setup, such as modular supply chains? That, my friends, remain a mystery. So as businesses eyeball India as a potential stand-in for China, they've got to size up the potential booby traps. These include infrastructure speed bumps, red tape gymnastics, and the possibility of India morphing into the new China when it comes to economic muscle flexing. Now here it becomes really interesting. facing. India's political landscape also has a starring role in shaping the risks tied to counting on it as a manufacturing alternative. Let's not forget, India is in the BRICS crew, rubbing shoulders with Brazil, Russia, China, and South Africa. This alliance hints that India might decide to snuggle up more closely with China if the US and China trade war heats up. But we cannot tell for sure. If the US-China trade war goes from bad to worse, for instance, India might have to walk a tightrope balancing its relations with both the United States and China, which could lead to a more guarded approach to economic cooperation with the West. If this happens, this tough balancing could impact how quickly and smoothly businesses can reroute their supply chains into India. As businesses pack up their manufacturing bases and move to India, they should also think about the potential for India to whip out protectionist policies down the line, especially if it starts to rule the roost in global supply chains. This could trigger a deja vu of the challenges businesses faced when dealing with China. To dodge these pitfalls, businesses should really consider to mix up their supply chains and put their eggs in multiple sourcing baskets to cut dependency on any single country. Governments both in India and the West need to pull together to iron out regulation, cook up a more business-friendly environment, and serve up a hefty portion of transparency in their economic relations. So by giving a thorough once-over of the political and economic risks tied to India as an alternative to China, businesses can make smarter calls and develop more robust supply chains in the future. So as we unpack the complex situation of global trade, mutual dependencies, and shape-shifting political climates that can trigger a domino effect that reaches folks like Ahmed and Catalina, not to mention businesses and entire economies worldwide. The US-China trade war should be a wake-up call, showing us how tightly connected our global village has become. So what's the game plan to ready ourselves and be able to navigate the negative scenarios up ahead? It's time to color outside the lines and get creative in our solutions. For businesses, embracing a modular supply chain blueprint could be the key for flexing and adapting through these stormy times. By picking and choosing components from a buffet of countries and assembling products in a variety of spots, businesses can ease up the dependency on any single country, example China, and soften the blow of potential fallout scenarios. The government in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa should also consider to put their heads together and cook up backup plans to cushion any potential fallout impacts to their regions. This involves pumping money into infrastructure, nurturing regional trade relationships, and knocking down any hurdles for new industries to get their foot in the door. As individuals, we can stay in the loop, roll with the punches, and back policies that champion economic diversification and resilience. While the future of the US-China trade war is about as clear as mud, one thing stands out. It's time to create a new path and welcome innovative solutions to tackle the hurdles that lay in our path. So together we can strive for a more interlinked, bounce-back ready and economically steady world where folks like Ahmed and Catalina and countless others can thrive despite any curveballs that might come in the future. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because hey, why not? And while you're at it, you might want to check one of my other videos. Check my last one here or here, which dives deep into the mysteries of our brains and what goes down when we are thinking about buying something. So catch you on the flip side, folks. Goodbye.